Welcome to the Hallspace Podcast. It's about connections. I'm your host, Dr. Ritch Hall, and this is a weekly conversation about whatever and however I see to connect things. For people who want to connect, chat, and learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Without further ado, let's start the show.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm not sure that we're live, but we might be recording. It says broadcasting.
Like we are.
There it is. There it is. Things are happening. Something's happening.
We're still working through kinks, y'all.
Working through kinks. I'm still learning how to do this.
Give us some grace here.
Yes. Yes,
We're
give us some
working on
grace.
it. Yeah.
So first, we should definitely remember to do the introductions. I'm your host, Ritch Hall, and I'm here with my lovely and capable co-host and wife,
Nicole Hall. Hey there.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome to the Hallspace Podcast.
And if you're new, welcome.
Welcome for the first time viewers.
Yeah.
And tonight we got a great show for you.
We do.
Got a number of topics we're going to go through together.
We're going to try to get through them, y'all.
Try to get through topics. Try to stay on topic. Try to be, decent television hosts.
Yeah.
And people. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And first up, let's talk about let's do the catch up. How's everybody doing? How are you feeling?
Everybody's doing great.
Yeah.
We did a date night.
We had a date night. She's very happy about that.
I like going on dates. Mm-hmm. And especially when the dates include food.
Food. Yes, they should include food.
Always include food and drinks for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and if there's also a movie or a comedy show, sure. So Richie Vaughn took me out to see Tony Baker at the Funny Bone at the Liberty Township Center. And we were able to meet up with our friends, Lou and Mindy. They live probably 45 minutes to an hour from us now, so we don't get to see them as often. But, you know, you've known Lewis since...
I've known Lewis since high school.
Since high school, yeah. So you guys have been best friends forever. And then when we started dating, we just sort of all hooked up, and, you know, he started dating Mindy, and we kept hanging
Lewis
out.
Started dating Mindy. I did not start dating Mindy.
No, you didn't start dating Mindy.
That would be weird.
No. When I say we, I mean us. Yeah. But, and so... You know, with life and kids and things like that, and them being so far, we don't get to see them as often as we like. But we were able to go on a double date to see Tony Baker.
Yes.
It was excellent. Mm-hmm. He's brilliant. The host and the opener, those two guys were great too. Mm-hmm. Keenan Baker,
and I can't remember the other guy's name.
I can't either, but he was the host.
Les Mills was his name. Les Mills.
Okay, right. Yeah. And so,
because he said asked to follow him on Instagram, which I did not do.
And I went out to Instagram today, and I was like, "What did he say his name was again?" I should have done it last night.
Mills.
Yeah, he's got an Instagram, but it wasn't his actual name. It was something else, right? So it's kind of like my name is Nicole Hall, but my Facebook and my Instagram say something different because I don't want my coworkers hanging out, really. Some of them can, but not all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we went out, and it was like a 7:00 showing, and they had food and drinks and all that, and it was great.
Yeah.
And then we went to dinner afterwards. So we're like out in the world.
We were out in the world until late at night.
I mean, we got our masks on, but we're out in the world.
For the first time in quite some time.
Yeah. I mean, when we were talking about it, we hadn't been to a comedy show in
a decade or so.
13 years. Yeah. We had seen Ari Spears at the Funny Bone in Newport. And we like going to see, good comedians.
Yes, we're a fan of comedy.
We are. And these are, Tony Baker's a guy that we're following on Instagram.
Yes.
And
very funny guy on Instagram.
He's hilarious.
Known for his animal voiceover shows.
He is. And the kids love him.
Yes.
The kids love him. So when we tell them that we went to go see him in person, they're going to
Yeah, they're gonna be.
They're gonna
very
love
happy
it. Yeah. Well, and maybe they'll be like, "Why you couldn't take me?"
Yeah, they'll be disappointed that they also could not go.
It was for adults only.
Yes.
Because it was late at night.
There was late at night. There were curse words. There was inappropriate talk.
Yeah.
And it was a really good show. Tony is a genius who made some really good, poignant observations.
He did. He was on his feet for a lot of the show.
Yeah. And we saw him. So they did a thing called Keep Your Distance Comedy.
Right.
Kev on stage did via his.
And they would, I remember that.
Yeah.
Keep Your Distance Comedy. And they would do these.
That was last year while everything was locked down.
Yeah.
They would stream the comedy shows so that you could view them.
And you could still buy tickets to it, but you had to have a ticket to
you had to have a ticket to view it.
Yeah.
And they would stream the comedy show online.
Yep.
And it was often a very good show. You got to see some good comedians.
It was very good. The comedians that you had never gotten to see before. You didn't have to leave your house. And oftentimes he would have people like throw out words or like it was just improv.
Basically like a Mad Libs type of comedy.
If you could do improv, you're brilliant.
People would throw things at him and he would just make like jokes about it.
Yeah.
And he did a similar thing in his live show this time. It was It was literally him sometimes just talking to the audience and asking them things about themselves.
Yeah. Which is why I was glad we were kind of in the back.
Yeah. I mean, I would have found it fun. But there was an element of me that was like, is he doing therapy up there? Like, he recently had some tragedy. He's talking about how he wants to help people get over things about themselves that they hold on to or that they are insecure about. And so he, talked about some of his own insecurities while asking the audience. And the audience
about
up front
theirs.
is a lot of men. So you could imagine how that went to suddenly ask men to talk about their insecurities. Yeah. There was a lot of crickets. He had some trouble with the first couple people trying to get them to talk about insecurities. Yeah. And then by like the third or fourth person, they actually got into, well, I take everything personally, one guy said, and then another guy was talking about holding grudges.
And then the lady was talking about holding grudges. Yeah. And then she actually told him what the grudge was, kind of. Yeah. In generic terms. And he was like, that might be an accurate judge.
Right.
Your aunt did something to your grandma.
Right.
That might be a valid grudge. Right.
And that was it was pretty funny, but it also slowed the whole thing down. Like at first, he's making all these jokes about Cincinnati and, he made the standard, Findlay Market's in a pretty bad neighborhood joke.
He's like the hood.
Yeah.
Findlay Market.
Right.
And we all know if you're from Cincinnati.
That, Findlay Market is a trip.
It's like Findlay Market,
vegetables.
Hood.
Right. Yeah. And so, and he also joked about how, people go to Kentucky for cigarettes and alcohol, which genuinely I think people have been doing since I was in high school. So longer than that, it's always been known for those things. Yeah. Because we tax a lot of those things more heavily here in Ohio. We do. And if they go to Indiana for fireworks. Right. And then
but what do they have for Ohio?
What do they come for Ohio? And
somebody said chili.
And he's like, y'all need to come better than that. And
he was like, y'all gonna have to step your game up. Right. No one's crossing state lines. Right. For chili. Let me get some of this chili.
Right. And he did a whole bit where he's like using the wall as like a fake map. And then he keeps referring back to it.
Awesome.
Let's go back to the map.
Let's go back to the map.
And so it's hard to recap a comedy show, particularly one like that where the guy is like just making all this off the cuff.
It's off the cuff.
It feels very organic. It doesn't feel like he's, in this.
These aren't like, okay, here's my next joke. There's a list of things.
It's not set up punchline. It's,
very
he's
natural.
just making the funny out of, whatever
he
loose
sees,
material he's got and whatever's going on in his head.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating to me, particularly as you come out of, a quarantine where everybody's felt so trapped in their circumstance. Yeah. And there's this guy who can turn that into, like, spin it into a type of gold. The doldrums of this experience we've all been having where we can't connect with people. There's this guy who could take it and make it into jokes. And so it's this very good sort of giving us this impression of sitting around with a guy who's just making really great jokes. Yeah. And making a good time out of nothing. And so as I think about it, it's like, well, there's a lot in, there's a benefit to comedy right now. Yeah. Because it can help us.
It's so freeing.
Yeah. To overcome our circumstance and
or at least forget about it for that little span of time.
And not make the mundane seem so mundane.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think it's really funny. I don't know that he'll ever like stand up on the stage and be a comedian, but I feel like you put Terry Huddleston in front of
Terry Huddleston has tried comedy.
bunch of people.
I mean, we're, big ups to Terry Huddleston, friend of the show.
He's hilarious.
He's a hilarious guy.
I be wanting to fight him sometimes, but he's hilarious.
Yeah, because he can go too far. But he's hilarious.
It's part of the way we work. This whole brother sister thing.
He did a what's it called? Open mic. And he did comedy.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. He told me that. That was a number of years ago.
I didn't know that. I knew he was a ninja in the middle of the night, but I did not know.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. Yeah, he wasn't as impressed by it, which was funny. He was like, yeah, I did it. It wasn't what I thought it was. And he was like, I don't know if I'll do it again.
Well,
and I remember finding it funny because it's like, oh, so you didn't like that it wasn't the challenge you thought it would be.
Yeah.
So.
He's a funny guy, and that's why he does so well at the comic book conventions, right? He's a presence. He's got a personality. He's got this that makes you want to be Huddleston around him. Experience. Yeah. I mean, and his wife is like, she's got her own experience too. So like the two of them together is just.
They bring an energy.
They bring a fantastic energy.
And it's funny because we were at the show, and as we're walking out, speaking of people bringing energy, we run into some people that I know from high school.
And they're like, that's Ritch Hall.
And it's always weird to me when I'm noticed in the world because I'm often sort of in my zone.
Yeah.
My brother recently put on my Facebook page something about like, I'm not an extrovert like some people might think I am.
Yeah.
I'm actually an introvert who's learned to be charismatic.
Yeah. And you get to a certain point.
Yeah, and I get to a certain point where
you're like, I'm done with humans.
I'm done with humans. I'm
good. That's it. Yeah.
And some people might not know that because I do a lot of front-facing things. Like
your job is front-facing.
My job is front-facing, but it's one person at a time, so way easier. I also. I'm on panels and stuff. I've been on TV.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like being, we went to church this weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
And we've done some things where people walk up to me and they're like, hey, good, happy to see me. And I'm like, I don't have a context for our interaction. So hello, person.
So we're walking in there like, that's Ritch Hall and Louis Ferguson.
Yeah. And I'm like, hi, person.
Hi. And they're like, oh, that's Richie's wife. And I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
I mean, I love when people are excited, like, hey, because I'm like, hey, but how do I know you?
Yeah. And I'm like, I do not recall. I'm sorry. I meet people for a living now.
You went to high, and they were, and I mean, and the girl Ebony said, she was like, from high school.
Yeah. And I'm like, yes. Okay. Sure.
Well, once I thought about it later, I'm like, they probably went to school with my brother.
Yeah, maybe.
Because my brother went to Aiken. Like, everybody in our neighborhood went to Aiken except me. Like, it was, Yeah. I mean, and this is back in the 80s when...
I've got nothing.
The high school that you went to was in your neighborhood. So
I've got nothing.
You got... Do you not remember?
I don't recall.
You don't recall it?
Here's the thing. I'm Facebook friends with at least one of them. I remembered her face from her Facebook picture.
Did you go to Hughes for a little bit? And
Did who go to Hughes?
So
you're trying to think through who these people are?
Yeah, because
I'm hello, nice to meet you people. Nothing against you personally.
Names.
I hope you don't take this personal because I'm quiet and weird. My default setting, as I've said many times before, is quiet and weird. So if I'm being, it's only in certain circumstances where I feel comfortable.
That's me all the time. I will remember your name and your face. Mm-hmm. And if I've ever gone to school with you, and I went to a lot of schools, more times than not, I will figure out who you are.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, yeah, third grade.
Yeah.
We were in language arts together. Like, yeah, I'm that person.
Yeah, I'm very often do I need to talk to you more than this? Because I feel like we've had an interaction and that should be.
But my job is also it's just me.
This should be sufficient. I believe enough. We've had an interaction.
No, but they were really nice ladies.
I hope it was pleasant. This is all I have. I don't have anything else.
And this is where this whole couple things work, because it's like, how are you? Did you like the show?
It's good that she has follow-up questions. I don't. I don't have follow-up questions.
It's
nice
humaning.
To see you. I'm going to walk away now.
You're like, hey. Well,
Hi,
I mean,
this is good. This has been good.
What do I do with my hands?
What do I should I get 2 cups? I need something.
Do I need 2 cups? What do I do with my hands?
I need something for my hands.
Yeah. So most of the time, like, Richie will meet people and they'll be like, oh my God, it's so great. And I'm like, isn't it great? It's on TV. And he's like, hi.
Hello, person. I believe this is sufficient.
Which is funny because I'm the introvert. I'm more of an introvert than you.
More with people
but
than I do.
if I mean, yeah. And then I'm like, I need a nap.
Right. And I'm fine, because if I gave it energy, I gave it. If I didn't, I didn't. Yeah. And then there are times where, you know, if I'm in my zone, in my settings, where I'm like, yeah, sure, I could be interesting.
So we're hanging out with Lou and Mindy, and we're like,
yeah.
I mean, we shut down the restaurant.
Yeah.
And then at some point we shut down the parking lot.
Right.
I mean, it's
we
just
do that thing where we stand outside and talk for
another hour. Yeah.
Until Nicole's feet started hurting, and then we had to go home.
Yeah, I wish I had worn. I mean, the shoes were cute. Mm-hmm. These are pre-pandemic shoes.
As with shoes, yeah, they
nice wedges, cute. Ladies, very cute wedges. Sure. Okay,
yeah,
I love.
Look great.
So the wedges are not for you, babe.
Mm-hmm.
Very cute wedges, right? Makes me taller. Okay, so at least I'm like almost eye to eye with you. Yeah. But yeah, and so we're in the parking lot, and Richie's got a few more steps to get, so he's like walking in a circle as we're talking. Yeah. But we've all been weird together for so many years.
I actually don't care. I'm just gonna be weird.
You don't care.
I'm gonna walk in circles for 10 straight minutes to get additional steps.
No one cared. Yeah. Like that wasn't, you know.
And I got up to 12,000 steps yesterday, and I was a little worried I wasn't gonna get there, but
you were very focused on it.
I was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been very focused on getting the steps. I got to get above 10,000 every day.
Daniel's like, he only cares about his Fitbit steps.
Is that what he said?
For the Saturday walk. He was thoroughly on Saturday.
He was.
Because he wanted to play the video game. Mode. He did.
Our son went into full protest mode. He refused to go on the walk.
We took a family walk on Saturday morning to the school and back, which is like 1.5 miles. Mm-hmm. And we take the stupid dog, you know, because he likes it too. And he was mad about it. So he would walk slowly behind us. Yeah. And then every time he would stop to let the dog smell something or turn around, he would stop. And it would do like
this. And he's at a distance. He's at this far off distance from us, and he's refusing to walk any closer. And I'm like, let's let it just play out.
He was dedicated to the attitude.
So disrespectful. And I'm like, he just has to do this.
Well, because there's a part of me that's like, at what point do I do like this and make him participate?
And make him a part of the family. He's already a part of the family.
Listen, I don't know if y'all know Brenda Brown, but she looks real docile, right? But she definitely like right here, like that arm fat, get your butt, stuff that nobody else can hear but you. Yeah. But like we sort of ignored him and just kept on walking, and then he was.
Yeah. I got another one.
Bless you.
My apologies for sneezing on the track.
Yeah, he's hooked. He was hooked on some game or some video. It doesn't matter what it was. It was electronic.
He's been watching Squid Game all weekend.
I don't know what that is, and I don't care.
It's a thing. It doesn't matter. But
I saw people were talking about it.
People have been talking about it, so he wanted to watch it, and he got really into it, and that was all he did for 2 days. From Friday to Saturday. And that's all he wanted to do. But he finally turned around once we got to the school, and then he was fine.
He did.
And he gave me a hug, which I assumed was because he needed to reconcile being a jerk.
Aww. Yeah.
But, you know, Dale's our Sour Patch Kid. He's sour.
He is. And he's cutting your hair off 1 second, and then the next minute he's like, I'm sorry, I cut your hair.
Yeah. My apologies.
Yeah.
So, yes. So far, it's been a good weekend, and now we're ending it off with the show. Last week started bad. I want to talk about one brief topic before we move on. Okay. The Facebook outage. Somebody didn't even know Facebook was out for half the day because somebody isn't on their social medias.
You sent me a message like, Facebook and Instagram have been down, and I'm like,
they were down for like 6 hours. Yes.
Oh.
6 hours they were down. Which is a long time in Facebook. Facebook's never been down that long.
No, it's a very long time. It
definitely caused a lot of problems for a lot of people who were not used to losing Facebook for that amount of time.
A lot of people have Facebook and Instagram monetized.
Yeah. A lot of people run their businesses through it. So, you know, if it sort of brought to people's mind the idea that you cannot depend on these platforms to, you know, make your full living. Because something could happen and the pipeline is gone. And particularly when the rest of the internet's out there. Like Facebook uses itself to not allow people or to discourage people from leaving Facebook. They want you to remain within the Facebook architecture.
They do.
Or Instagram architecture.
But if your architecture is down, you're going to lose folks.
If your architecture is faulty. Yeah. And it reminds me of the social media, what was it, the Social Network movie where, you know, they never wanted Facebook to go down. It was like a big deal.
Yeah, no, it was huge.
For Facebook to never
and so
go
when
down.
you talk about being down for like 5 minutes, like it's a thing.
Yeah.
Right? But 6 hours is, in the world of IT, it's way too long.
It was most of the day. There were all these jokes and memes about it being the most productive day in the last, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people use it socially, but seriously, there are people whose whole lives they're feeding their families. So I get that.
Or people who are just completely addicted to it because it's an addictive thing.
I think a lot of us are probably, there's another documentary on being addicted to social media, not being able to disconnect and all that other kind of stuff. But if it's your business and it's how you feed your family, then it's your business and it's how you feed your family. Yeah. So, I mean, the intentions and the goals are different. When you're using these platforms to do what you need to do. But I didn't notice.
Yeah, I noticed because in between clients and at lunch, I'm often checking it and was like, wow, they're really down for quite some time. It was like right before lunch. And
my stuff was cached on my phone. So everything from before was just what I was seeing. And I was backed up anyway. So I'm never caught up. So,
Yeah. So I thought it was fascinating that it could go down and that it did.
Yeah. There's a meme going around where there's this guy standing and looking at a bunch of wires. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
What do I do here?
Right.
What's going on? Yeah. I am curious, technically, what happened.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll ever get a clear answer on what could have happened.
Somebody
or could have
knows.
went wrong. It's just going to be what it was,
What happened to your servers, y'all?
Yeah, something went wrong.
Something happened with the servers. Something happened with the network.
Yeah.
I mean, with the company that I used to work for that I'm no longer going to be working for.
The company that you used to know.
They used to know. If something went down, they're texting and they're calling in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
These
this
big
is in the
companies.
Day, so if it had been in the night, it would have been as bad. Like if it's like 3 a.m, nobody's going to care. But if it's midday, like
no one's going to care in America, but people are going to care in India. This is 24/7.
Right.
You're losing something no matter how it works. And the company that I used to work for, they're 24/7 as well. So it's like whenever something went down or something wasn't working or you couldn't post cash or you couldn't do invoices like that, you pull up all the people that you need to figure it out, and it's always, I mean, it's random, right? I mean, there's some things that you just...
Things happen.
Things happen, exactly. But I'm always interested in what those things are.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, technically, what happened. So
yeah.
That's just
the tech in you.
That's the
curious.
nerd in me. Yeah.
Right. The IT nerd in you.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of us were just like, I couldn't see pictures for 6 hours. Right. How was I going to validate my existence if I don't get likes? You're cutting me off from the likes. I need the likes.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe.
There should be a picture of Victoria doing that.
There should be because she does it all the time.
She does.
Yeah.
Oh.
And she will grow up in a world where, like, we grew up in a world that we had to adopt this. It was funny. So I left we were going to the comedy show. We still needed to get some food for your mom. I run to the store and forget that my phone's on the charger because I'm charging it because I'm going to be out tonight and I need to get my phone up to a certain percentage because I just knew I wasn't going to get 100%.
That's not going to last through the night.
But I need to be able to last through the good majority of the night.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the car waiting in the line at Wendy's for some food for your mom. And I'm like, what did I used to do before I had a phone in the car?
You just have to think thoughts. You're like,
I didn't
have my phone.
Right. I gotta like listen to music. I'll just listen to the music and just sit here, I guess, and think clearly. This is novel. I guess I should probably do this more often because there's no way that I'd be sitting in a line at a drive-thru and not be scrolling through something on my phone.
Yeah. There are some times that I remember pre-pandemic, I would go to work and sometimes I just needed silence. And this is like driving to work. Like I've dropped all the loud kids off and now I'm on the highway. I'm heading down. I got 30 minutes left and I just forget to turn the radio on or the true crime podcast. And it's just like, just thinking thoughts.
I do that a lot.
Yeah.
On the way to work.
I mean, I think for a lot of us, it's a matter of, okay, how's my day going to go? What am I thinking about? What are these things that I kind of want to formulate? How do I want to organize things, like just personally, with work, with everything, right? Like you get this time to sort of just think thoughts.
Yeah.
So
I've been walking every morning, walking the kids to school. And the walk back, there are times where I will listen to music, sometimes where I don't, where it's just like, let me just have a moment of quiet. Let me just have quiet. And I think, you're less stressful. It's hard to be as stressed if you take a midday walk.
Yeah.
Because some of the little things start to just sort of melt away. Like you could be thinking, I got this and this and this, but like you do that, you walk long enough.
Yeah.
And you're just not stuck in that tornado.
No, you're in a different mode, right?
Yeah.
For me, because I'm home, one of the things that gives me that quiet, that time, is to just sit on the porch, with the cat, and I don't take a device out. I don't take a laptop out. I just kind of sit there and I watch the leaves blow in the tree, in the wind, and so sometimes that's, even if it's just 5 minutes, it's okay. I'm walking away from laundry. I'm walking away from work. I'm walking away from dog. I'm working away from, messy house, all these things, And so sometimes that's kind of what you need in order to sort of recharge to make it through the rest of the day. So yeah, I can see that as something that's, important to do if you can find, a way to do it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so with that, we're really close to a break time. So why don't we go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about what men say they don't want from women. And a certain pastor made Nicole very mad by talking about how you'll never find the perfect woman as a man. So we'll be back in just a moment with more of the Hallspace Podcast.
See you soon.
So let me tell you about Anchor Podcast. It's the podcasting service that I use. Anchor.fm is the easiest way to make a podcast, and there are many different reasons why, but foremost is it's free. So you don't need to go out and buy a whole bunch of equipment. If you have a phone or a computer and a microphone, you can record and edit your podcast right on your phone or computer. So that's one major benefit, as well as the fact that they'll distribute your podcast to several different podcasting sites for you. Not only can your podcast be found on Anchor, it can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast as well. So you don't have to worry about going to all those different sites and setting yourself up. They'll do it for you. You can also make some money on your podcast. Say you have a podcast that only 5 people listen to on a regular basis. They don't limit you on how many subscribers you have to have in order to be able to make a little bit of change for your podcast to keep yourself going. So pretty much everything you need to start a podcast can be found at Anchor.fm. So go download the app either in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or go to Anchor.fm to get started. And I guarantee you, it'll make things so much easier for you, like it has for me.
Love, relationships, the church, the world as we see it today, and many more thought-provoking conversations. This season of Speak Kaya, She's Come Undone Talk Sessions, coming to your ears soon. Keep watching.
Have you ever wondered why humans just aren't who we say we are? Psychologize You is a podcast by licensed psychologist Dr. Ritch Hall and licensed therapist Frank Baker. Join us as we explore why humans human the way we do. Hopefully, you'll learn a little bit about how the mind works, mental health issues, and ways to cope with this thing we call life. Weekly, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome back to the second half of the Hallspace Podcast.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Hanging around.
As we hang around and talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
Two people talking about stuff. So Nicole brought this next topic to our attention. She was scrolling through the internets last week and she found a story that was the things that men find unattractive but will not tell you. Won't tell you.
And it sparked all kinds of conversations.
Yes, it did. It did.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, a lot of it was very lame and picky, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't like girls that have deep voices. I don't like girls who don't have their toes and their fingernails done. I don't like eyelashes or weaves or whatever. And then there were some that were very a little deeper. You know, I don't like when, you know, my woman won't take accountability. I don't like when I feel like I can't come home to her and vent and her be my soft place, right? So there's a ton of different things that that sparked this conversation, and you could tell the difference between the older guys versus the younger guys.
Yeah, guys who've actually been through a lot of relationships versus guys who have no relationship experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
It does make a difference.
It does make a difference. And the observation is that, you know, there are a lot of things that the older guys don't put up with that younger guys don't care about.
Yes. And there's a lot of things that younger guys care about that older guys are like, yeah, that's not a real person.
That's not a, yeah. So, you know, out of this list, there was just so many things. And there were some that were, we understand it. Like, okay, we need to be able to take accountability. We need to be able to listen. We need to be able to, I 100% agree with a lot of that. But for you as a man, right? Like, let's say you're dating. I mean, you're not.
I should be dating you as my wife. Huh?
I mean, good answer.
There we go.
Y'all, he learned from last week. Yeah, but I mean, what are the things that you feel like?
The things that are what's okay.
And the word is unattractive.
Unattractive?
Unattractive.
Things that I find unattractive that women might do in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it was
or
just in general, right?
Yeah. I mean, from the people
that you're mentoring and coaching, or like what are those guys like?
I mean, so for me, always my deal breaker is always willful ignorance. Don't not want to know things,
right?
That might be important.
Yeah.
That's very unattractive to me. Not having any interest in learning things.
Yeah.
Learning new things. Not having any interest in like curiosity is very attractive to me. Curiosity is important. For a person like me. So the idea that you want to explore and understand.
And a lot of the guys said that. I scrolled through. So Ricky Smiley posted this on both Facebook and Instagram, and the content, most of it, that was really
self-centeredness is a big unattractive feature.
Yeah, like that was a thing that they didn't.
A person who's way too into themselves, and as a result, not really into.
They're into you and not the we.
Yeah. That would be a big deal. Someone who's a little too vain, like I need a certain level of vanity. But there is a line there. So a person who, you know, likes themselves enough to take care of themselves is important, and I think is of value.
Right, but not so much that you can't.
But not so much that it's the most important thing. Like it's I was raised with some, you know, upper middle class black values. So appearances are important, but they are not the most important, but they are important.
There's a balance.
You must maintain.
There's got to be the
appearances for sure.
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't know, there's probably a list. Like I could probably like rattle off like a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, this is very unattractive. Like someone who's always angry or bitter. Definitely.
That was one of the ones that was listed multiple times. Loud.
Yeah, unnecessarily loud. Like there is a loud that's like, oh, you're just being,
you're being joyful.
Yeah, there's a joyful loud that I don't mind.
I'm a joyful loud.
Yeah, you could be a joyful loud.
I could be a joyful loud. It's rare, but I mean, it's not rare.
It's actually not that rare.
No, it's not that rare.
But the idea that if you don't know when to turn that off, I think loud when you don't know when to turn it off, or like you just feel like you constantly need to be heard, so you don't care if you're arguing constantly.
There's a level of appropriateness to, no, understandable.
Like just, and some of that's just sort of how good are you at reading situations? Like someone who's bad at reading situations doesn't have, say, the emotional intelligence to understand when it's a bad time to do anything.
Yep.
Then that's going to be harder than, you seem to understand that there are certain circumstances where you can be,
the most.
Yeah. Don't be the most right now. This is a bad time.
Yeah.
There are other times where it's okay, but now's a bad time. So please don't be the most right now.
Yeah.
Constant insecurity. Somebody says in here, constant insecurity. Insecurity is hard to deal with, man.
Yeah.
Dealing with somebody who's constantly insecure, very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Wearing slippers and bonnets outside. I think that comes under vanity.
It's I agree with that.
There's
100%.
a lot of talk online about the people who post on social media every day. And I do think social media is not good for relationships.
It can't,
as with any tool, it could be okay.
Inform the way that you move.
But I think it gets back into vanity, where you are now searching for this thing online, the validation of what you get from online, as opposed to the energy that you could take to form a better and great relationship with an actual person next to you. So I think a lot of like the people who, they're seeking, and that's one of the things that I learned very early in the internet. It's like, oh, they're these Instagram models. They're very pretty, but they're kind of empty, because in order to be the type of woman that any man can project his lust onto, she can only cross certain lines. She doesn't have to have a full personality.
Yeah.
And thus she's only good for the lust thing. She's not, she doesn't have to be a good conversationalist, because that's not what she's selling.
I mean, but and honestly, when you think about the time that you spend with a person that becomes your person, you spend so much more time talking and hanging out than anything. Yeah.
And the beauty only lasts but for so long. You got to have something else besides that. So I remember a friend of mine, I think I've said this on the show before. I know I've said it out loud to you. When we were in college, she was like, well, I don't want a girl that's too pretty. It's going to be too much for me. And I definitely learned over time that I agree with that sentiment. This woman that's attractive to everybody. And it's like, the top echelon. Like, could I have dated Beyonce? Could I have dated, Halle Berry for real in real life? That would have been, and like most normal guys would be intimidated by that, because it's like, now you're with this girl that literally every night I got to fight to prove my love.
Every night I got to fight to prove my love.
Right? And it's like, I don't want that. Like,
you don't want to fight to prove your love every night.
No, I don't. Who wants that? I just like somebody I could chill with. I mean, I like having a girl who occasionally guys glance at her booty, but not like every guy is like, I'm gonna have to stab this dude in the throat just because he got the woman I want. Like, I don't want that type of hate. Who needs that in their life? So I think there's a lot of things that we definitely, when you're talking about like dating, I think we idealize a lot of these ideals around who the person should be and what they have. And I think sometimes they're going to be unrealistic.
Hey, listen, let's roll back, because I absolutely want to be the girl that every guy's like, oh my God. Hey,
do you really? I know you don't like that type of attention.
You're right. I do not. Yeah. And when I get it, I'm like, ugh.
Right. Right. There are some girls who thrive on that. Our daughter is probably going to be one of those girls who's like, everyone look at me all the time.
And she's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's beautiful.
But that's not you.
That's not what I
want.
I mean, look at me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, she's pretty, but
yeah. No, like it's the human element. It's I'm an introvert. I don't you don't
want all that energy all the time.
No, that masculine energy is just, some of it is like, hey, that's hi, but some of it's too much. Yeah. No, but realistically speaking, you want somebody who is in your wheelhouse, that you can connect with, that is compatible.
I think a lot of times we talk about attractiveness, people underestimate compatibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
That compatibility is a major factor. Just because she's pretty, just because she dresses nice, just because she smells nice, doesn't mean she'll be compatible with who you are as a person.
And 100%. How many times, and maybe people can leave comments or send us messages, how many times have you had a crush and then you actually got to go out with them or like a version of them, and you're like,
wasn't what I thought it would be.
This is unseasoned chicken.
Or as the guy said last night, you just mess around with drywall.
Drywall, he said.
Yeah, why are you so interested in the drywall?
I don't understand why you're fighting for the drywall.
Right.
Yeah, but like the person that's been rolling with you, and I mean, they're cute, but you trying to...
Yeah.
You know, everybody thinks grass is greener.
It was interesting because there was a writer a while back who wrote like basically that women hate the idea of having to settle in relationships. That often comes up in a lot of different circles. But like that women should like the guy who's more of their friend as opposed to like chasing the bad boy, which is like part of the process of women learning the type of guy they like. Like you have to go through these sort of stages of who you'll date.
Yeah.
And that like you may just, and I remember she was talking about like seeing it as more of a business transaction. Is this person going to be good at the business of a relationship versus is he going to be a good partner? A good partner versus the hot partner or the one that you lust after or that you're chasing.
The ones that you lust after, if you actually attain them, is that sustainable? It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because they're human too, and
they might not be compatible.
They may not be compatible with you, right? And so, but there is this, at least for us and the girls that I knew and myself, you know, like there's this like bad boy kind of, you know,
ideal.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about your 19, like some of the early stages of developing relationships is practicing some of the, essentially you whittle down from stereotypes.
What you want and what you don't want. Exactly. Yeah.
And so much of like, you know, our son started wearing a do-rag, and while I hate it that he's thinking he needs to wear this to school,
we're giving him the freedom of self-expression.
Of figuring out who he is and putting on what he sees as markers of a type of adulthood. Now, I'd like to shave some of those markers off, but some of it is just like, let him see if he likes it or not.
Yeah.
And then have a conversation with him about the what and the why.
He's got this do-rag, y'all, and then he's got the hat to the side.
Yeah, yeah. And the rag is like hanging off his head like this, like a Smurf cap. That's all I can think.
It just looks like so Spanx. It's just...
But he likes that he has this article of you know, masculinity.
I mean, if y'all see his face when he's wearing it, he's very serious.
He's very serious.
Okay?
He's so sincere.
He's very serious. He's very sincere.
Yeah.
He's standing outside from school when I pick him up, and he's like, yeah. All right, y'all, see you later.
Right. And I don't want to stop him from practicing being who he is.
I mean, you know, okay, so let's talk about that. I mean, there were things that you did and things that I did that were trending at the time.
Yeah.
And we got shaved down immediately.
Oh, yeah. Immediately. There was no room for that self-expression.
LL Cool J had some video out, and he was doing the one leg up and the one leg down on the jogging pants and stuff. My uncle hated that. He was like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's kid.
Right.
It's kid.
Right. You know, you're just trying to find your cool.
You had your keys hanging out with your lanyard.
Yeah, my lanyard. I would often have a very long lanyard for no reason. Cause just other than
you couldn't tell the Hall boys apart because they both did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. But yeah, there are so many things that, I mean, we understand as parents that our kids are going to do things that we've never done. They're going to say things we've never said and wear things we've never worn. And we're not going to understand it. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, at some point it's like, listen, if you're inside, you need to take the hat off though. Like there are some things that
we were
you're going to have to. Yeah.
We were like, take
He's
that
like,
off
I want to join church today. Take the hat off. You're in the house of the Lord.
Right,
take the hat
Men don't wear hats indoors.
No. So, I mean, and you know, Daniel joined with the Joker mask. I was like, Mama, why didn't you give him a different? Yeah. I mean, because there are some things that are just old school in my head that, you know.
That does go back to my feelings about my mother, who would never let us do things, but lets my sons
leave them babies
do
alone.
all sorts of random things. And I'm like, where did you come from, ma'am, that you are allowing?
Who are you?
This oversight, because this was never allowed.
We were never allowed.
Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of church, that brings us to the second topic that Nicole brought. That's a little bit more controversial. There was a pastor who said some things, and I'm trying to cue up the video, and I'm hoping that it's going to play like it's supposed to play. But
God rest his soul. What's his name?
Miles Monroe.
Miles Monroe.
Yeah.
So I saw this video on the Instagrams, of course, on a site called The Situationship. And really, honestly, you know, Rich and I, we're together. We're not, you know, it's just so amazing the random stuff that happens on this site. And so we follow because
it's
holy cow,
pretty fun. We like laughing at stuff like this.
We do.
It also helps to be a reminder of, like, man, dating is hard and stupid.
Dating is hard.
I never want to be out there doing
God,
that.
we don't have to do that. Yeah.
Right.
So you're going to play the clip.
I'm going to play the clip for you, and then we'll talk about what they're talking about in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Miles Monroe was talking about how a woman is raw materials, and Nicole had a lot of feelings about it.
He starts off by saying, God never gives you a finished woman, right? Fair enough. Fine. He gives you raw materials,
yes.
Right? Okay, fine. And then he goes on to say, men, it's up to you to train them, to mold them, to make them into the woman that is in your head, right? Because oftentimes
he says the woman in your head doesn't exist.
The woman in your head doesn't exist.
And that you have to train them into who they're going to be.
He said to train them to be the woman in your head.
He didn't say the woman in your head.
He did.
He said the woman you want them to be.
You want them to be.
Yeah.
Isn't that the same thing?
No, that does not have to be the same thing. So it's funny because I heard that message way different than she heard it. She got very upset because to her it evoked. You tell them what it evoked for you to hear.
So for me, it's like, so you training me now, like I'm a dog, like you're training me now. You're building me up like an IKEA dresser, right? As opposed to, okay, the way that I see relationships, right? We're all raw materials. I agree with that, right? Because the person that you get with, that you connect with, you guys have to learn each other and grow with each other. And so there's this constant level of moving and learning and moving and learning, right?
Yeah.
But he made it sound like, yeah, so I'm going to build this girl.
I don't hear that as how he sounded.
So tell me what you heard.
So what I heard him saying was that a woman, that one, the woman in your head doesn't exist. And I believe that because I talk to a lot of people about relationships, and often what messes people up about relationships is the expectations they have about what the relationship should be.
And often they're unrealistic.
Often people have unrealistic expectations.
And uncommunicated.
And they do not communicate clearly those expectations. Yep. And that often has a detrimental effect in the building. Now that
goes for both sides.
Of a new relationship. Yep. I do believe it goes for both sides. That very often people get stuck in those spaces of trying to idealize what they think a relationship should be. I do think that at the beginning, there is a lot of molding between two people. I mean, we've talked a lot about how we are not the same people we were year one of this thing.
And we're not supposed to be.
Right. And so at that point, we were more raw materials than we are now.
I agree with that.
We are sort of aligned in a thing that has been built over the last 20 years.
And we continue to build and we continue to grow. Yeah. And we have stumbling blocks just like everybody else. Right.
And so I hear that part of it.
So for me, it sounded so much more one-sided, right? Like
that's also one part of the conversation. We don't know if he spent other time in there talking about who the man should be.
We're talking about this.
It's a 2-minute clip out of what probably was at least a 30-minute sermon.
Yeah, I mean...
Also pulled to trigger emotions and to generate conversation because that website on Instagram...
That's what they do.
...doesn't get engagement if it doesn't make you upset in some way. So they need controversial things. So that goes back to, the idea that so many businesses have their business run on Instagram and Facebook, and those economies are driven by attention. Right?
Right.
How much attention you give a thing. What gets attention is controversy. What gets attention is reminding women of the fact that people have spoken in the past from a misogynistic lens, and that irritates you to be reminded.
It does.
That,
it does.
That, there is this sort of call for submissiveness from women.
And the problem is not being submissive. That's not the problem. I am perfectly okay with you being the head of our household, right? I don't have any issues with that. And there are a lot of women that are married that trust their husbands fully, that trust them to lead them and guide them in the way they should go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe in you and all of that. But there is something to be. Listen, I'm still a whole person, a whole woman.
Yeah. I have not denied you your personhood.
No, and that so okay. So guys, that's the debate that we're having. I'm like, I'm not a Build-A-Bear. You're not gonna come and be like, oh man, you're so raw. Let me build you up and make you what I want you to be.
I believe that's a joint process, that we are both building each other from the ground up in a relationship to last longer.
We believe that.
Yeah.
But the way that he said it was kind of like the woman needs to be built. The dude's already done, right?
So, but also we don't know if that was a message to just men, if that was a message to a mixed crowd. That's what you heard in the piece of media that you heard.
But
and I'm
also,
not saying your feelings about it are invalid. I'm just saying, are they based on the true
they're not based on facts,
but
they're based on history. Let's go back, right?
Yeah.
I'm an African American woman, right? Which makes me a double minority.
Yes.
Which means that I get messaging all the time.
I do believe
what to wear, what to do, how to be, how to get a husband, how to keep a husband, all those things.
Yeah.
From men, right?
From everyone,
right? There are all these beliefs and structures that are imposed on us. And when you step out of that at all, then it's a problem. It's like, well, that's why you're alone. That's why you're going to. Yeah. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be things in place. You're going to meet somebody, you fall in love, you guys kind of grow together, right? That's kind of what we did.
Yeah.
We met when we were 19 and 20 years old, and we just sort of figured it out along the way, the way that a lot of people did. Your parents did, my parents did. Like that's kind of how that goes. But I think the wording that he's using makes it's like you said, it infantilizes the woman.
I don't think it intends to do that.
I'm not sure that was his intent.
And he wasn't even really talking to women in that statement.
I think I disagree with that.
He's saying two men. The image of the wife.
Two men. You need to build these girls up.
The image of the wife you have in your mind is not what you think it is. I heard him saying you need to be a leader. You need to be a good leader. You need to be a godly leader. You need to be thoughtful. You need to be encouraging. You need to be supportive.
See, that's your lens though, babe, because that's how.
But also the message was for the husband, the man.
That's your lens.
Yeah.
That's how you approach our family, which is why it works. But there are some other kinds of ne'er-do-wells that'll be like, nah, he said I need to build you and you need to do what listen, I don't want you to wear this. I want you to go here. I want you to call me when you get there and back.
You should have the discernment to recognize when it is a toxic relationship and maybe not for you.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Extricate yourself from a relationship wherein that person is being toxic in that leadership.
And that's part of it, right? So I agree that who you decide to hit your wagon to determine who's the head of your house, if you're a woman of God. Yeah. You gotta be sure.
Makes a difference.
Know that you have babies with this man.
Yeah.
The family is a whole unit.
Yeah.
Right? And that influences the entire family and the people around you. You know, his actions are important, right? His intent is important. So I don't know. I didn't like the words he used. I understood the sentiment, but it was kind of like, Just a little bit.
Yeah, so I felt like maybe the words were indelicate, but I also felt
definitely were.
You know, some of what he was saying was based upon his point of view of what he believes the man should be in a relationship. So I didn't think that that was totally wrong. And like I said, maybe he could have been a little better, but I didn't think that it was. I thought it was. I mean,
didn't think it was horrible.
I didn't think it was so horrible that like people should be up in arms and, you know, light pitchforks and torches.
I'm not saying pitchforks. I'm just saying that
I feel like we could get into you can get into the weeds on trying to make sure that every message comes out in a way that is in no way endorsing misogyny. But I mean, there's some misogyny baked into Christianity.
And that's the problem.
Is it the problem?
Yes, it is the problem. And that's what we're...
So there's an element of misogyny that is oppressive? Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Well, I mean,
100%.
What we've defined as misogyny can be oppressive. What I'm trying to say is there is an inherent inequality to male-female dynamics, these particular gender dynamics.
Yes.
And that baked into a biblical understanding of male-female dynamics. But also, so one of the things
y'all are taking it too far. Let's be very clear.
Some guys take it too far.
You're taking it too far.
You're not talking to me.
I'm not talking to you.
There are guys who do take it too far. Yes,
they really are. Absolutely.
And historically have taken it too far.
You just making up stuff now.
But I can't spend all my time arguing against the ones who take it too far. I just sort of flat out assume I disagree with them. But I also know that once again, baked into Christianity, Western Christianity in specific, there is an element of a hierarchical nature to the gender relationship. The man is supposed to be at the head. So, you know, things have changed to where you can't say some of the things that you would have said in the past. And that actual clip is years old because, as I said, Reverend Miles Monroe is no longer among the living.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe at the time he said it was more of the way people spoke about some of these issues, and that it doesn't sound good today because things have changed today. But I do believe that, as I was saying to you earlier before we started the show, I do believe, you know, the Christian church is one of the few places where we discuss the cultural understanding of what male-female relationship and marriage should be.
Yeah.
And I believe that when people talk about being fully agnostic or atheist, they just sort of assume that values and morals sprung up out of nowhere, and that they weren't inherently tied to religious and spiritual institutions for centuries, and that trying to absolve ourselves of them becomes nigh impossible. We have to build something that does that, because
there has to be a moral capacity. And what is that based on?
To translate those cultural values. Yeah. And historically, particularly in the Black community, it's been the Black church. That's why I will never be able to fully divest myself of the Black church, because I do recognize its role in resilience and culture building, and that within those groups, there are many people who achieve well because they have the resiliency built in from religion. Yeah. And unfortunately, atheists, agnostics, they just don't have those numbers. So from a practical standpoint, it's just good to be Christian. And so in that, there's going to be times where it's said indelicately, but does that mean the entire sentiment is wrong and that maybe we should, burn it all down? I'm
not saying burn it all down. I'm just saying we're talking about reading the room. We're talking about adjusting and growing and learning. Uh-huh. You're not going to keep telling me, you're not going to keep dictating to me, essentially. Right?
But he did not see, and I feel like you're hearing a message at you, but he was saying to the man, you're going to have to mold and build. And I hear support, be a strong leader. I hear be a capable and wise leader of a family.
You know what I thought of when I saw it?
What did you think of?
I thought someone comes over to the house, T'Challa jumps all on them. They're like, you need to train that dog.
That's not what he said at all. So you're reading into that.
I am reading into that. And what I'm saying to you is that I'm probably not the only person that read into that. Even though I have a great husband who wouldn't even do that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I that's not my personal experience.
Yeah, but I'm saying that sometimes we hear in things triggers for us that might not be what's actually happening in that moment. And do we hold do we hold Reverend Miles Moreau accountable for what you heard in it?
No, we have a conversation and we say what's the middle ground, right?
Yeah.
And what I say is I hear that the intent wasn't to belittle women, right?
Yeah.
And you say, I hear from you that you've heard belittlement so often that was the first response that you had.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of how we get to the middle and we say, okay, this isn't us. This doesn't reflect us.
Yeah.
But we do want to be able to say and reflect things when you have a platform like that, that encompasses things that consider the age, the changes in culture, essentially, right?
Yes. And that I think, as a person who is a fan of history and how you have to be understanding of how things have changed. I'm very much there's probably many of these institutions we should break up and break down. But what's the cost when we do that? And I think a lot of times...
What's the cost if we don't?
I think a lot of times we have great intentions, we try a thing, and then we don't know. A generation later, we're like, oh man, maybe we should have changed that. Like a good example is the highways. We thought, we needed all these highways because people had all these cars, but we find out cities need bike lanes and public transportation again because when you have a certain density of people, that you need access in ways, and cars aren't best. But at the time, we tend to jump on these bandwagons, and that humans historically do that. So I tend to take this sort of 50-foot view a lot. And it's like, well, what's really in this? And when you brought it up to me as a show idea, I was like, do we need to get mad about this? And I don't mean to do that to invalidate you. It's just a matter of like,
but I'm not mad.
Are you getting sparked about this?
We're getting sparked.
I will say, one interesting thing about doing a show with your wife is you do have to stop and go, are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you. I'm not talking about you.
Show version, we're just having an argument about a thing. Because for the most part, nothing from the show ever bleeds out into our personal lives.
Yeah, no, these are always
to have hypothetical conversations and arguments.
These are mostly, But let me tell you what.
But I try to remain aware of whether or not I'm going to step over a line by saying the wrong thing.
Let me tell you what.
Got me proverbially sleeping on the couch.
So let me tell you what. Like if we're ever discussing something and I bring it to you, unless I bring up something that you specifically did, if I have something, I'm going to say that. Like, hey, back in 1998 in the fall.
Wow.
In the fall semester.
Wow.
In the fall semester.
3 decades ago?
This is what you did.
That's almost 3 decades ago.
And this is how I'm talking. This is my experience of that. That's not this.
2.5 decades ago.
I know. Wow. I haven't forgotten anything.
You should have. You should have let some of that go.
Yeah, I do let a lot of the stuff go, but a lot of the stuff we talked about are things that, it's like you said. It's like, oh man, should we, we made the changes with the cars and the lanes and stuff like that. It's growth.
Yeah.
And you figure out what works and you figure out what doesn't. But if you don't try, you never know.
Yeah. And you
never
need to
know.
be able to have conversations about stuff without getting too upset.
Gotta have the conversation.
Communication is key. It's one of those.
I'm going to be passionate no matter what. So,
that is true.
That's what it's going to be.
So,
have you met me?
Yeah. No, I know you very well.
Yeah.
In the biblical sense. And that's a good place for us to stop the show and call it a day.
You know what the music means.
You know what the music means. Our time is up.
I say good day, sir.
I say good day. The Hallspace Podcast is brought to you by Hall Productions, LLC. Show notes and credits can be found at our webpage, thehallspacepodcast.wordpress.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns can be sent to us at thehallspacepodcast@gmail.com. The show is written by Daggerpin Davis. Music is curated by DJ Cabal. The show is produced by Chuck Jones and recorded at Slash and Trash Studios. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good week. House Hall. We rise brilliantly.